So I know you as Coach Rasta. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Adwela, as Coach Rasta, and then also as a musician and a songwriter.
Well, how far back do you want to go with the coaching thing? It's been a minute. Well, obviously played. So that's where my base comes from. Played in high school, had a pretty successful career in high school. Played in college, had a decent collegiate career. Got some professional opportunities. Stuck around for about 6 years playing arena football. Played overseas for a year. Got some NFL looks, but not really stuck. Not even really stick around anywhere. Ended up getting hurt, and it was past my NFL windows, and I realized like the business side of it, and I was thinking, quality of life at that point. So I kind of got into coaching. I wasn't even trying to actually. I was trying to play for another developmental team out here, and the guy who was running the team, um, he was a dirtbag for lack of a better term, and like was running the team wrong, stole some money and rolled out. And the commissioner of the
Oh
league,
no.
yeah, it was the indoor league. The commissioner of the league at the time, he asked me. He coached me when I was playing briefly for about a year. He asked me if I could pick up the team because it was his first year in the league, and I took the team over. We won the championship my very first year as a head coach. But before that, I've done like high school coaching and stuff like that. So I've been around the block a bit. I had a minor league team in Utah last year in 21, and first year team we had a number two national ranking in like the premier minor league for league in America. And last year, well, actually, like up until about 2 months ago, I was in Australia, um, coaching a pro team over
I
there.
saw that.
So
Yeah.
they were, I think, a two-win team before I got there. We were one game away from the championship this year, but unfortunately, didn't get it done. So waiting on another opportunity now. So
So you've been doing that for about 7 or 8 years then?
um, in the pro game, yes. As far as like high school and coaching, like from my inception, I just updated my resume. It's more like 15 years now. I don't know where.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know where the time has been. I took a little hiatus when I started playing music, but I got back into it full time in like 2016. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So coaching is super close to your heart. I'm assuming you really enjoy um, helping to guide young ones into their power and help them fully realize what they can do. How does that relate to how you um, project yourself into your music career?
Um, it is not easy or correlative really at all because athletes and musicians are wired completely differently, and I learned a very harsh lesson in that regard.
Yep.
And I don't mean to sound bad about musicians or because I'm one myself, and it doesn't come naturally to me like it does to a lot of other people. I work really hard in the music game, and that's what I enjoy about that because I'm challenged doing it. But just the way athletes are wired, as far as the stereotypes that athletes are given, like the dumb jock rule really doesn't apply in football because there's so much on the cerebral side of things that people just don't know. And as far as being disciplined, being accountable for things, working well with others, handling adversity, like I feel like it's the biggest life teaching game. But musicians tend, the stereotypes about musicians, they tend to be undisciplined, they tend to not be punctual, they tend to not work well with others. And with me trying to put anything that I agree with as far as my foundation into musicians, it's ran more of them off than I've kept. And I've had a lot of turnover with the musicians around me. But the guys who are with me are the guys who stuck by me. But I'm also able to accomplish things in the music game that a lot of people are not able to accomplish because we just approach it a little differently. So it's if I said it would have been easy or a smooth transition, I'd be lying. It's not anywhere close at all. So
When did you get involved in music?
um that's another thing I don't know when I didn't do it. Like my father was born and raised in Jamaica. So like if you know anything about how we live out there, like everybody in Jamaica play music. But you don't think anything of it because everybody does it. It's just like something to do. So, I mean, at least everyone knows how to use, a hand drum or a shake or rumba box or something like that. And then you got the top tier musicians who play an actual instrument. They're mostly self-taught. Um, I'm self-taught on the keys. I don't read music or anything. It's just from ever since, really.
So why is it that everybody in Jamaica, is it just part of the lifestyle? Is it part of the spirituality? Why is it
Um,
that everybody plays music?
Poverty, lack of other entertainment. Honestly, when you can't go, you know what I'm saying. When you can't go to the party, you have to make the party yourself. Really.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. I guess it's always been. It's just something that's always been part of the culture, and it's part of our expression, of course. Yeah, and of course, it's part of our spirituality and our belief system and our lifestyle and stuff like that. That's what the birthplace of reggae music or whatever. So yeah, really from like I've always played music or played around with it, but started doing it seriously. My career kind of started in Culpeper. And, I was actually still coaching. I was in Pennsylvania coaching a team, and a friend of mine dared me to come down and go be in his talent show. That was like the first Culpeper Has talent show back in like 2014. Um, and I'm like 9 years in now, almost 10 years in as a professional musician. Everybody knows that story about how I just came on the scene. I was just trying to have some fun, man, and ended up being a competitive thing. And just the way I'm wired, I got to take everything entirely too seriously. And if I do something and there's a prize to win, I'm going to try my best to win it. And Culpeper did his best, like it always does, to make sure I don't win it. And I didn't win it, so I thought I was done. I was like, cool, that's my story. I played a couple of songs. I played in front of a big crowd. I got some pictures. I got a newspaper article. Got something to tell my kid. You know what I'm saying? I got a cool story. But then people kept calling in the spring and summer. So I was home for the off season anyway, and I already had the musicians in place. So I was like, you know what? Why not just take a summer to play music? And I wasn't really trying to make any money from it or do any. I had no aspirations. If I told you I had a plan to do this, I'd be lying. I had no plan whatsoever to do music. It's kind of right place at the right time. The real reason I started playing out after the talent show was just too much. Um, I was living in the Fredericksburg area at the time, and there was so much violence going on as far as like venues and things happening, stabbing, shootings, fighting. And a friend of mine that was working security at a spot, innocent bystander, man, got shot in the head and got killed, and that was just the straw that kind of broke the camel's back for me. So I was like, I'm going to go out and I really believe and always have believed as far as like frequencies and what you digest into your spirit. It's the same thing like what you eat with your physical food and your body. So if you diet and get smaller, or you eat bad food, you get bigger, you get unhealthy. It's gonna be the same thing if you digest bad things into your spirit. It's obviously going to manifest out with how you behave, how you treat others, and your level of respect or lack thereof. So that's been my mantra. I teach that everywhere I go, and what better music to put out that you can still, hold a vibe to, but still has a positive message. And that's been my whole thing. It never really was to entertain. It was more to educate and just stop the foolishness that was going on.
So there is an overlap between coaching, educating, and your music.
Oh, absolutely. It's just getting people to lend an ear to it. It's just harder. It's harder in one arena than it is. See, in the sports arena, if you want to be great and there's a goal you want to accomplish, the people that are around you are voluntarily there, or you draft them or conscript them to be around you. Therefore, it's not a democratic process. Me as a coach, I'm gonna blow a whistle, and you're gonna come to me, or you're gonna go or do what I ask you to do. And you're gonna do it exactly the way I want you to do, and you're gonna do it right now.
There's a set rank, and
There,
you kind of have
there,
to. Those
there,
boundaries don't exist in the same way as
in the
musicians,
music
which is
world,
like,
how it
who's
goes.
the boss here?
Right.
Who's the lead singer? Blah blah
Right.
blah.
Everything's fluid and this and that. And so when I have the same hierarchy and roles, a lot of musicians have not like that, but it's necessary from a logistical standpoint anyway. I'm not even talking opinionated
Yes.
as far as for me to move and tour across the United States in order for me to tour overseas, in order for me to have a catalog and a set list that's vast enough to play 2 3 hour shows with a band, in order to move, you know, in sync as one, there has to be a hierarchy and the direction has to come from a singular voice at the top. And they may not always like
I
that voice.
completely agree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And they
And
may
that's
not always.
very hard to do with musicians because, like you say, they try and approach it like, oh, we're all, it's very egalitarian. But the fact of the matter is, it's not that way. And then what ends up happening is like this bizarre power struggle when people just need to admit, like, who's going to be the boss and then step in line
Well, there were
and
people,
follow, the rank afterwards. Everybody has their part to play.
right? There were people who were never even in charge in the first place. And the thing is, I'm not a type of person that doesn't hear people out. I have a somewhat open door policy, but I'm conscripting people to come join what I have going on to accomplish a certain goal, and the direction wasn't ever going to change. That was never for debate. As far as your people's collaborative efforts and contributions, absolutely. I'm not, too pompous to say I can do everything alone, and I don't need help because I obviously do. Um, I'm very envious of people like you who are singer songwriters who can write your own music, play your own guitar, and sing on your own and move on your own accord. You don't have to worry about um, bringing people along and this and that. And if you want to play a band show, you can say, okay, hired guns, here's your money, here's my set, let's play this exactly how I wanted to. If you don't like it, get out of here, I'll find someone else.
It took me a while to get to that point. It took me getting, ripped off to a certain degree, mistrusting people that I thought had my back that
Mhm.
really didn't, that
Right,
really just wanted to use my music, my voice, my face
right,
for whatever goals they had, and me
right.
not realizing it because again, I grew up from the musician side, although I am very competitive and I'm,
Mhm.
happily will admit that, but from the musician side, which is all like, we're going to try and approach this peace and love and let's just play music.
Right.
But again, to have, to bring organization into the chaos, it's sort of like the masculine and feminine. The chaos is very feminine, right? Music is very chaotic in its own way. If you don't kind of funnel that into, an instrument, funnel that into a voice, funnel that into a song, it's like it's cool to jam, but if you want to actually repeat something beautiful and magical and channel that on stage in front of people, you have to do the work. You have to organize it.
You're
And I
speaking
feel
my
like it's the
language.
same with,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the same with people. It's like we have to decide how this is going to go. And not everybody likes it because everybody wants to pretend, I feel like to a certain degree, that they can easily take a back seat. But that's very difficult. Just like it's hard to step forward and say, I'm going to lead this process and all the things that come with that. Both roles are equally difficult. And I think it's just knowing, I mean, I guess, you know, for you as a sportsman, just knowing which position you play and where your skills are, where your talents lie.
I feel like there's a delicate balance in the music game, right? Um, and same with athletes, it's okay to keep guys set to purpose while simultaneously not stifling creativity. You see what I'm saying? It's like the originality of creativity, cool, but it's getting guys to do that within the framework with what we're already doing is the problem. There's way more egos in the music game than there is football. I promise you. Guys will be humble and gladly play a role even if they don't agree to have a spot on the roster, have a spot on the team because there's limited spots on the team. Musicians don't care. There's five of us. Okay, fine, replace me if you can, and I will.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's such a different mindset surrounding an athlete and just, they just want to be on the team versus a musician who, I don't, for lack of a better term, is a little bit, they're like, oh, go ahead and replace me. I'm the best there is. And
Not.
not everybody's like that, but I'm saying what those two personalities, why do you feel like an athlete is more grateful just to be there versus a musician?
I want to speak freely and not offend anybody, but I have a theory about this. So
Well, go ahead.
I'm not going to say factual information. But I'm going to say from my almost decade experience and my lifetime in the sports arena, I have the contrast and the similarities pretty much down pat here. It's the upbringing, it's the foundation. It's a lack of struggle, it's a lack of hardship, it's a lack of mental toughness and mental acuity to do something that's a part of something, be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. We learn at a very early age. We learn at a very early age as a sports person, especially a football player. I feel like all young boys should play that sport. Not even to say, go be a collegiate athlete, do that, do that. No, it makes you a better man. It's a life building game to where it will teach you to be a better husband, a better father, a better brother, a better member of the community. You'll be accountable to something. You have a commitment to something. Guys have commitment issues. If you join something voluntarily, you should see it through. Life is not, you know what I'm saying? Life is way more unforgiving. You can't quit on your family when they say something that's not right. You can't quit on your kids when they disobey you and piss you off. You can't quit on your spouse when they do something that's not, the best all the time. What if you have a family member that gets sick and can't toe their line like they normally are? You pick up the slack because you love them, you have an obligation to them. You don't quit and just go somewhere else, which is the equivalent of, okay, I don't like this project here, I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't like my role in this team, I'm going to transfer. Like I just really think the foundation is so different from a little kid who's normally a musician. They come from if they've been a career musician that play multi instruments and they're from Northern Virginia, they come from a little bit of wealth. And with that wealth, it's the absence of struggle. With the absence of struggle, it becomes the absence of being mentally callous to certain things. So meaning you got to talk to them a certain way. You got to be mindful of their feelings at all times. On the other hand, I'm from Culpeper. I've been playing football since I was 7 years old. I've been getting cussed out by country boys that been my football coaches since I was seven. I don't bat an eye when someone raises a voice to me. I don't bat an eye when I don't miss someone's message when their tone is different. It's just so many things that you've got to placate and walk around. And this is just my experience with musicians that I've been around. I'm not saying all of them, but
Yeah.
most of them are just wired differently, and they can't see things through here. And it's the culture here in the music scene. And again, if you look at me and how consistent I've been over the past 9 years, and how many venues, how many bands, how many musicians have come and gone, and I'm
How
still in
many
that,
musicians have come and gone?
a bunch. Like from how many guys you've seen? Like I've seen guys and girls that are pulling up playing shows I've not played in 4 or 5 years. How do you take 5 years off and still think you're going to have some traction? You only get
I don't
traction.
know. I think that's probably a pretty personal decision. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
different things that play with that.
And I'm sure there's different variables that they
I
call.
think it depends on your goals. Like, for
Right.
example, for me, where I'm at, when I first got back in, so I grew up like poor.
Right.
Like I don't have the Northern Virginia background. Like, sure, I had more stuff than other people. I'm grateful for what I did have, but definitely like out in the country, poor, like no indoor plumbing
Right.
type of deal. Um, and my dad playing music as much as he could, but then also a construction worker. I'm sorry, I'm having my, can you hear my toddler?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, let me, he's with his grandparents. I don't want this to like show up in the background of the conversation, although that's also life. So I want to take this moment to like pause and also check. Will you do a favor for me? So you're on your laptop, right?
I'm on my phone actually.
You're on your phone.
Hmm.
So are you using the app? I'm on my phone too.
Yeah, I'm using the app.
Um, well, then there shouldn't be any issue. I guess my only concern is sometimes when I see it blurry like this, and I'm like, oh, it'll be fine later. Sometimes it hasn't been,
Hmm.
and I just want to make sure. Like,
I've not
I
I've not
wonder if
been
we.
I've not been blurry at all since you started.
Yeah, I'm not blurry, but you are,
Oh
and
really?
I'm probably blurry to you.
No, you're not blurry to me
Yeah,
at all.
and okay, good.
Yeah.
Then hopefully it's not doing that. I was gonna say we could like restart our phones and get back on the app, and then I could make sure that he's not gonna he's having his own breakdown. You know how I mean, they're three that like it
Right.
happens.
It happens.
Emotions are heavy.
It happens.
Um, but it doesn't make for a great background of a show.
It wasn't too bad. My ears just sharp. I promise you. It wasn't super loud. It wasn't very noticeable.
Okay. All right. Then we won't worry about it. Um, but I guess back to the subject of the differences between, or the noticeable differences between musicians and athletes, and um, with your experience with musicians and athletes versus mine, um, I hear what you're saying that a lot of musicians that you've encountered have come from a cushy um, background here.
I think it attributes more
Um,
to demographics than actual like who you are. Feel what I'm saying? Like where you live versus who you are as a person. That's indicative of your foundation. Like, us being in this part of the county and this part of the state, we grew up a little tough. We just grew up a little rougher around the edges than the other side of town.
yeah. I'm just curious how much of it is I mean, I do see, I try to be as self-reflective as possible and see where my faults are, see where my shadow is versus, see where my strengths are. And I try to do the same thing now that I'm a parent, try to do that with my parents
Hmm.
so I can try and understand, why I have certain difficulties or certain strengths. And I guess I do see a little bit of that for sure in someone like my dad who also grew up super poor, but he didn't know his dad. But oddly enough, his dad was a musician, so it's like he
Crazy.
ended up becoming what his dad was as well. So I think music is definitely in the blood, but he definitely had um, an attitude about it, like kind of like what you said. If you don't like it, I'll go somewhere else.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I feel like the flip side of that, he also played for free and did a lot of stuff for people that it was kind of like, why didn't you,
Asking for money,
do
right?
like go out on your own? Like I know a lot of people that I think are incredibly talented that are with bands that they've surpassed them.
Right.
They've been playing beyond them for years,
Right.
but they're still doing it for love of music. So I don't know. The dedication, and not to say that your experience isn't valid, but I feel like the dedication to project I think what might be there, what I'm thinking about is that execution. Like I feel like in sports, there's a pretty clear, and I haven't played sports, so this is just talking as an outsider, but I feel
Mhm.
like there's a pretty clear goal of like, we're going to go about it this way and execute it and get it done. And
Absolutely.
that's the plan.
Absolutely.
And with music, there's a lot more feeling in the dark. And I think you often see people who are, I don't agree. I don't subscribe to the dumb jock theory, but I do think that oftentimes people who invest themselves in sports do, you know, have more of a physicality to them, where musicians are maybe a little bit more cerebrally, um, not to say that one is smarter than the other, but like
No,
they're
that's
in their heads a little bit more,
absolutely.
whereas, um, and most of them tend to present that way. A lot of musicians are, they don't want to go out and go running. They don't want to go out and do that. That's not what,
Mhm.
they want to sit and craft something. Um, I don't know, introverts versus extroverts type of thing. And you could go on
Definitely,
all
that's
day about
very.
this type of experience.
Mhm.
But so with you, you obviously, I mean, you're very introspective. I can tell that just in the 20 minutes we've been talking, but also you need to have that physicality. So where do you feel like your strength as a musician and your strength as an athlete overlap and help you to get to your goal?
I, I like the emotion that I can evoke and channel in order to get things done. That helps me push through things and persevere. Um, my mental toughness has allowed me to really not quit and against like some really insurmountable things over the years. And again, I understand exactly where you're coming from as far as like you know demographics and how people are behaving. I'm just going by what I've seen in my own camp consistently over the past almost decade. So it's kind of hard to ignore when
Yeah,
I'm looking like okay logistically okay where are these people from? What's their demographic? How long have they been playing? What's their history
yeah,
before they came to me? What's their motive for doing this? And it's all similar to where the guys just don't want to be a part of something bigger and they can't see things through and they're not very non-committal. And that's just the culture of and if you go to the open mic scene in Nova, any Nova open mic during the week, you'll have some of the most talented musicians in the world that are like playing for years,
yeah.
not committed to any one project. Or on the converse side, they're in like six bands, and all of them play like one show a month. So they don't
How
understand.
much of that do you think is because I think this will lead me into to what I want to ask you about your goals as a musician, but how much of that do you think is the aspect that I feel like with sports, there's a very clear path, not just how to execute and get done what you need to get done, but hey, if you play in high school, you can go on to college. If you play in college, there'll be these other opportunities. Whereas, again, music, unless you're like classically trained and you plan on playing in an orchestra or something like that, it's very much like there's less of a guidebook, right? And I think the perception is a lot of people are like, oh, if you didn't get plucked out of the sky and all of a sudden you got a recording contract,
Correct.
or you run away to LA or New York and get, quote unquote discovered, then you're not really doing much. Where there's a lot of tears and a lot of work between those two places. And come to see now that, maybe getting a recording contract with some big producer in LA isn't the smartest thing for a musician. That's a good way to get ripped off, is what we've seen over the last couple of years. But I guess what I'm getting at is that I feel like a lot of times, and I've experienced this, people are sort of like, oh, well, you sound really good, but man, it would be so hard to go pro, or, how are you going to go pro? And the idea of pro is wrapped up in like, you have to be super, super successful. And whatever success means, have the mansion in Beverly Hills or whatever that is, instead of like, you can do a local tour and be very successful. You can have a lot of people in Virginia, a lot of people in Culpeper know your name and be booking and be, what's the word, sustainable as a musician to be considered professional. And I feel like that's overlooked a lot. Like, where I'm at, like you said, I do go out just with my guitar and book gigs, because at this point I'm like, well, I've done a lot of different things, and I can tell you that getting paid, 2 or 3 hours to sit on my butt and play music, which I love doing, and getting paid $250 is better than working a 10-hour waitress shift for 175. And
Absolutely.
that's where I'm at.
Right.
So I'm like,
Absolutely.
what can I use my talents and my creativity to get the income for my family and not feel like, I want to just blow my brains out because I'm working in some
Right.
office job.
Well,
Like,
you hit it right on the head. Right, very much right on the head, and that's a mentality thing around here as well. Very much, even with sports. Oh, you're a professional, but you're not in the NFL, so you're not. Well, the definition of a professional is someone proficient enough to provide a service well enough to get paid for it. So
right.
the minute you made some money doing something, you're a professional. There's tiers to
Yeah.
professional, obviously. Am I in elite status? No. Am I very good status? Am I well above average? Absolutely. Have I put myself on these things? Yeah, you're right. You're sustainable. I've been sustainable for almost a decade. I've not worked a real job in almost a decade. I played strictly music
But
for like
and that's the thing, people don't consider it. See,
they
and
don't
even we, when we're talking about a real job,
well,
like
I mean, as far
you
as
can be a professional athlete and get health care.
right,
There's no
absolutely,
level at Music Hood where you can get that right now.
right. Here's the thing, though. That's the thing. They don't respect it as a profession, which makes it hard for us. Um, I've gotten
I
a
guess what I'm
go ahead.
sorry. No, you go ahead and I'll tell you. I was going to get back to
I've
you
burned
said
so
different
many bridges with
personalities.
people and fans and people who I don't allow certain narratives to be you know to be forced on me, and there's certain words you can't use around me when you speak to me. So to where like, if what do you do? What else do you do? I have so many people come to me after a show and say, what else do you do? Like, what do you mean? Why am I not good enough to do this alone to sustain myself? I'm a professional, cool. Yeah, you're not rich though. Yeah, I'm not rich, but I'm paying the same bills you're paying, doing what I want to do versus you doing what you have to do. My
Yeah.
professionalism, the value in this for me comes with okay, I create my own narrative and I have my own freedom and I reserve the right to say screw this at any point in time and not show up with no consequences.
See, I think again that's the society working on, and you said that, a certain narrative being pushed upon you, the society working on you saying that, um, somehow the entertainment of being an athlete is worth more than the entertainment of being a musician. They're both completely valid and fulfill different
Completely though.
purposes, different mythological narratives, different philosophical meanings in our lives. And I truly believe that we need both of them for different things.
They're very
But I
necessary.
think that yes, and I think for a long time though, music has just been sort of seen as like, um, it's pushed to the wayside. It's like, oh yeah, that's just people, you know, getting drunk, getting high, playing music, or going to the party. There's a party aspect to it, which again, that works on a lot of musicians like that we've encountered. Like you said, a lot of them don't want to show up. They just want to show up to play. They don't want to do the work. And I think that that's slightly a personality thing, but I think a lot of times it's culture working on it and the idea of what it means to be a rock star. We see that over and over and over again pushed down our throats in the pop narrative and the rock star narrative. I mean, it's like, show up on stage and get drunk and have a good time instead of like, how about let's stay clear so you
Right.
get the signal clear type of deal. And I think honestly, this sounds like, pretty overreaching, but I think that's because music is so powerful. And I think that if it was given the attention and the respect that it truly, truly deserves, that you'd see music heal a lot more than what people even realize. And I think so it's been pushed down to be like, okay, contained, commercialized because it is so powerful. And that's where I want to get to talking to you about Adwela and the uprising and what that means because reggae certainly has been an incredible force in the world and for healing and for change and for revolution for freedom. Really, I mean that's the whole message, right?
Well, yeah, more or less, yeah, absolutely. You've explained it better than most have. Yeah, absolutely. I can get on with that. Absolutely. There's there's some
Well,
deeper facets.
tell me, yeah, tell me about the deeper facets.
Um, really for me, it's the spiritual side of things, man. It's not the. I really hate when people talk to me and I'm having a human moment. Well, that's not. Aren't you a Rasta? That's not very Rasta like. And I'm like looking at you like, okay, you're not even a Christian full time. You're telling me what I'm supposed to be and when I'm supposed to be there. Like the spectrum of human emotion doesn't apply to me because of my belief system, which is ridiculous. How can you hold me to a higher standard than you hold yourself and your own belief system for simply being a human being and being on the spectrum of emotion and handling it in a way that you don't deem as appropriate when you're no governing body over me anyway? That's the biggest thing I come across. So again, the spiritual aspect and the Rastafari aspect of reggae is what my calling is, what I'm really interested in. I don't, the whole party. party watered down reggae. It's cool, I guess, if you're on a cruise or something. But I'm not. I don't sing Three Little Birds. I don't sing One Love. I don't do that. No, that's and really the origin from Rastafari. The One Love was actually a battle cry. The premise of my belief system in Rasta in its inception is really a black man finding his identity as well. Black people find their identity as well. From what we've been through in the Middle Passage and human shadow trade. Finding our purpose and finding our worth and the restoration of our worth as black people, first off. And secondly, it's really, without lack of a better term, death to all oppressors. It was really a battle cry. It was a war thing. We were prepared by any means to never go and be reverted back to that state of being below a human being.
Right.
So to
And all
me,
about the mentality of that, like not just the
absolutely,
physicality, but the mental
absolutely.
um, domestication of it.
Absolutely. So when I come across as militant, it's very purposeful to people. If their vibe is not right about certain things and they see the world a certain way, as far as like people of color and minorities, and I catch so much just from my appearance in the world. I get black in the music business in this area. Oh gosh, it's so discriminatory. It makes no sense. I don't know how many times I've either well, we got to see if you're a good fit. And my summertime is always popping as far as my tours go. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, I've got two charted albums, like real, not BS charts either. Like I've touched the Billboard charts, I've touched the iTunes charts. I have legit music that is out and have been touring extensively all over the U.S. and I've been overseas with this. It comes a time where the disrespect is so crazy. I got to toot my own horn. Like, look, I'm not the same as these people. You cannot treat me as equals. I've done more. Screw all this talent is subjective, this and that. I have accomplished more tangible things, therefore I should get more. There's levels to this. There really is. Now, people can say, "Oh, it's subjective, this and that." Cool. It may not be your bag, your bag as far as music, this and that. But at what point do we reward, the work that's been stacked up and quantified over the years? What are we working for? If there's no end game, there's no reward to this. There's no goal to this. I'm not gonna. There's no way I can be extensively touring and have all the accolades, music awards, press, and everything else. And you see, I'm the same as the local guy that just plays around here and there for fun. There's levels to this, and that's not me
Yeah.
trying to talk down or look down on anyone else, but it's just there's different levels to this. And prime example, and I could put a venue on this on blast for this because I'll never play there ever again after Friday night. And I really did it just to make a little extra money. Sangria Bowl, the good people at the Sangria Bowl. Um, Now that you know where that is, right? Upstairs at the State Theater.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now it is very well known that they have access to the biggest and most recognizable sound in the whole sign in the whole entire county. Correct.
Correct.
So if they want to fill that little room with people, the least they can do is put someone's name who's playing at the venue on the big marquee, right smack dab in the middle of town, in a couple of days' notice, to where people can see it and come up and see it. Now, if you have a guy whose
I
career
would say that's a successful business move and
that
also something to do for your people that you're booking.
common sense, correct? Um, I,
Right.
I played there Friday, and the marquee literally said "farm fresh eggs" on the damn thing, and I was like, and then I was told, why do I have an attitude when I'm expressing that? That's like a slap in the face to someone whose career was literally born in this building, and literally the only reason I come to play in that building is because of the nostalgic effect of being in the place where it all started, and it keeps me grounded, it keeps me humble. They don't even book my whole band; they book an acoustic gig, and they don't even pay anywhere close to even half my fee. I tried to book this past show from November 25th and got ignored. And then basically got told, well, basically, we can't afford you. And well, last time we didn't pack it out like we thought we should. And we didn't see any promotion on your end. Now, mind you, for me, every time I book a show, I have a full band and an acoustic project. I have bands in town. That's my master schedule. When I book a show, I post it on there. Are you familiar with the app? All right.
Yeah.
So bands in town, obviously blast all your fans. You can email blast, puts it on your schedule. It's correlated to my website as well. And a couple days before the gig, as an acoustic gig, I never even really promote those. I post it on my band page, post it on my personal page. I'm from Culpeper. I'm coming home. I post the day before and the day of saying, "Hey guys, y'all ain't doing nothing else. Come over and come see me for a couple hours." You should bring about 10, 20 people in there just off that. And 10, 20 people in that room is almost capacity if you have anybody there that's a regular. If you have a business on a Friday afternoon or Friday evening and you have no dinner crowd and you're relying on me to bring everyone into your business, then you need a better business.
There's two things that come to mind and I've had very similar experiences. So two things that come to mind is one, first and foremost, this is a restaurant,
Right.
right? This is not a venue
Correct.
that um, people go specifically to go check out new music. So one,
Correct.
they should have their built-in crowd
Correct.
and not expect, because the thing is if you were doing what you truly, and I feel this way all the time, if you were doing truly what you do, there would be no room for people to be taking orders. There'd be no room for people to be sitting there eating. It would be like people are there for the show,
Straight
right? So
concept.
already you have to change your performance a bit, even if you might not be doing it consciously, because well, I'm kind of background music.
Right.
And
Even
that's the
even
unfortunate
small
part
things
about
like
a lot of,
even small things like, can you turn down if people can't talk? They want to conversate over the
right.
music.
Yeah.
So you're hiring
So they're
elevator
not
music.
going there to see you. So
Right.
you don't book it because of that. You know that, and they need to know that as well. It's like I've had that happen with a few wineries. I had one time, they said, "What's your fee?" I told them what my fee was, and they said, "Okay." And they, this is what we normally do, and it was like hundreds of dollars less
Absolutely.
than what anybody should be doing. And keep in mind, it's like a winery gig, so it's 3 hours.
3 hour, 4 hour show.
And they said, well, we'll see how the audience reacts and we'll see how many people you bring in. I
Right.
said, you know what? This is a winery. People are not going there to go, oh, wow, I want to see this incredible show. And my people that want to see me are not necessarily going to a winery to go see that because they know there's going to be glasses clanking. There's going to be, and again, turned down. So it's like,
Turn
there's
down the
this
worst thing in
weird,
the world.
right?
I refuse to
They're
do it.
like, oh,
I will
sure.
never do it. I won't do it. It's gonna get mad. I'm at the point in my career I refuse. Can you turn down? No, I will not. And you can unplug me if you don't agree. I promise you, I won't do it ever again.
I should have done that last night because a gig I played last night, and it was funny because everybody else was like, I don't hear what you're hearing, what that guy's hearing, but I had my sound the way I wanted it. I
Mm-hmm.
got a small setup. I knew what it was. It was a dinner crowd. I know I'm not supposed to be too loud, and this guy
Right.
kept saying, you need to turn the mid down. Turn the mid down in your vocals. Oddly
Everybody's a sound
specific.
guy.
Yeah, and I said, are you a musician? He said, no, I'm not. And I said, okay.
Right. I'm gonna keep going about my
But it's
business.
like messing with, I think everybody in that way, everybody's also like you said, a sound guy. Everybody's also a critic. I mean, I don't know how many times I've had people come up and go, "Sounds really good. I really love your voice. If you could play some happier songs,
Right.
do you
Right.
know it? Could you play some Eagles? Could you play?"
Do you know any dance? My biggest thing. You know any dance music? What is dance music?
Right.
Why don't you learn how to dance?
That's subjective.
Right.
And the
Why,
other
why
thing
don't you
is
learn how
it's
to
like
dance?
everybody, if they want a jukebox, just plug in your phone.
I mean,
It's
I
like
can and I can DJ better than most DJs from a Spotify playlist on my phone as it is. It's
right.
terrible, man.
But what we're getting at is that the space being held in this society and especially locally, for musicians and for creativity is very, nigh, if not completely non-existent. And so that's why it's sad to see places like, I don't know how your experience was there, but playing at Blue Wing Frog, getting paid to go play at a place that's trying to book original music. Um, I really would like to see more places like that.
I love everything
Um,
about that place. I love from the food to the people. Everything about that place has been warm and welcoming and inviting. And I'm looking forward to them putting whatever obstacles they have going on behind them and coming back with some music, man. I
I
really
hope so
I
too.
really enjoy that
I
place.
was really sad
Right.
to hear that they weren't going to do it anymore because it was such, that from the nice posters
Right.
to have those incredible posters
That's
made. And
wonderful.
Sally Mae is just, I love her. I can't say enough great stuff about her.
Super cool people.
Um, yeah. So places like that, I mean, more places like that. And I think, like you said, more teamwork between musicians would be great. There seems to be not only an attitude within bands, but towards other bands.
But
And even people, go ahead.
here's what I've seen. And the biggest lie in this business. You ever heard the old adage, there's no need to compete, there's enough for everybody.
Right.
So why, if there's enough for everybody, why are these open mic hosts and all these other bands underbidding and backbiting and gossiping so much about one another and trying to outbid and become the big fish in the small pond in places like this? There is enough for everyone. There's not any collaborative effort whatsoever. They feel like it's the opposite camp, and cats are even like side eyeing other musicians, like, bro, there's not a war about to happen here. It's not like this is not even it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything to be a threat to any other musician. I'm in my own lane. But I don't agree with the adage that there isn't any competition. Healthy competition definitely breeds the best out of everything. I can personally say when I step on stage and there's another act on my bill, if I'm headlining, I'm trying to play you off the stage.
Yeah. I feel the same
But
way.
I'm not trying to
I feel the
embarrass you.
exact
I'm
same
trying to
way.
make sure you bring your best show every time you step up.
Yeah.
This is not me trying to poop on you or anything like that. It's me saying, okay, I'm bringing my best foot forward. You know the standard of me as a musician. If you want to come in my camp, this is how you got to come out. We're trying to bring the
Yeah.
best possible product for everyone, and that makes the business better. That makes everything else. It makes the value better. It makes more people want to come see us. It just generates more. Healthy competition is a good thing, but there's ethics involved, and people violate those ethics and morals, and that's where the competition becomes backbiting and underhanded stuff, and that's not competition.
Right. That's just bad form.
That's just bad form, right? Correct.
So where do you see like where is your lane? You said you're in your own lane. Where do you want to go with your music?
Um,
You said you've touched the charts, you've touched the Billboard charts, you touched the Spotify charts. Like you want to keep rising, keep going with that. I mean, do you want to? You've done some European tours. You want to do some more tours?
I
What's
ain't
your
never.
goals with that?
I've never really gotten into this for the fame, honestly. It's just making it easier and more sustainable. Um, I will tell you this: the state of the reggae business in America is the most discriminatory, racist thing there is in the world. It's almost worse in our society in certain aspects. There for music that's supposed to be about unification, there's certainly a white side and black side, and people have drawn the line. And I don't care who I offend with that. That's what it is. Look at the bigger reggae concerts and the venues and this and that around here. You can't have and this is certainly I'm making it a white and black thing. It certainly is because we invented this music and we started this music and we brought this music to the world. Not saying most of my band is white, so it's not like and Asian. I've had people of all different global concerns play with me. It's not me being a non-inclusivist or anything else, non-inclusive person or anything else like that. It's the origin and the respect is not paid to the elders and the originators of this craft. And there are too many foundation members that have brought this music to the world and made it applicable and accessible to people that are living in squalor and poverty in Jamaica right now because they've been exploited because they did not know the business. And even with cannabis, the way the cannabis culture is in America now, the same dispensaries and grows when black people were doing it, they're locking us up. People are still incarcerated for those same crimes. And the Cali West Coast scene, they're taking these surplus funds from the herb business and they're putting themselves on their own tours and their own catalogs and everything else like that. And you'll literally have festivals over there. It's just I don't see how you can have a reggae festival with no black acts on it. It's not possible. And
Yeah,
if
that
that makes
doesn't
me
seem right
if that makes
whatsoever.
if that makes me negative or it makes me a racist or whatever, I'll gladly be that. But uh, there's just certain perks, and again, I don't like to use the word entitlement or um, expecting something, but I believe it's a well known fact that Bob Marley brought reggae music to the world. Correct. So if that's the
Yeah,
case, and he's no longer with us, and he's got umpteen children that play music, if your last name is Marley, you should not open for anyone in the reggae world. I think that should be the least they could do.
right. Yeah,
So when you have festivals who have no black acts on it, and then when you do bring the black acts on, they're the affirmative action hire, and you sprinkle one in each day, or you have the Cali One Love Fest, and you have a whole second stage, a side stage with all the Jamaican acts on it, Grammy nominees, Grammy winners, and everything else playing a side stage, while Revolution with some whiny nasally Cali guy in the front singing about I don't know what and urban party music, and they're hypersexualizing our music, and they're making it party music. Alcohol is being put in place, and this and that, and that's not indicative of the teachings of His Majesty and the Rastafari liberty, and it's just not. It's not something that's supposed to be. But they're taking it and commercializing our music. They're pushing us out the back door, and when we speak on it, they just continue to blacklist us. Um, so I could,
why? Why?
because our
Why
mess,
do you think it's happening?
same reason they killed Bob, same reason they killed all. If you look at all the elders of reggae music, they're all dead. Every last one of them, either assassinated, put out, died of natural causes, whatever you want to say, or just living in poverty and blacklisted and not able to go tour and provide for themselves like they're supposed to. There's so many cats who have toured the world that are just literally living in squalor. Um, and they do that on purpose because the music is with the frequency of the music, um, and how it brings people together. When they start to listen, it becomes dangerous and it galvanizes power to one man too much to certain entities, and they do away with it. Just like everything else, it correlates with the civil rights movement in America or anywhere else in the world. Look at every civil rights leader we've ever had. What happens? They get shot in the face. So what's the difference? They killed Bob. They killed Peter Tosh. They got Gregory Isaacs hooked on drugs. They got Dennis Brown hooked on drugs. Bunny Wailer died in poverty. Jacob Miller, car crash, could have lived. Took their time taking him to the hospital. There's so many elders in the foundation of reggae music that are literally dead and gone. And the ones who are sticking around are the ones who went pop, and the ones who went commercial. They have their safe hits, and it's all written in the footage. You can see it. There's no way they can all be dead by natural coincidence.
Do you think they were too influential, too powerful, that they needed to
Absolutely.
be
Look at Bob.
shut down?
Look how iconic Bob is. Look how iconic.
Right. Someone singing "One World, One Heart."
Right. Right. And
People are like, no.
right. And they're pushing again all this in posthumously. They make sure they push the safest tunes forward, and those are the most recognizable. But Bob was talking about politics, world issues, talking about the unification and exploitation of Africa and Africans all over the world. Moral things that are wrong in society, how we treat one another, how we're supposed to live, and how we're supposed to deal with one another. And it was almost prophetic, and every one of those things are still applicable right now. Peter Tosh, same way. Peter Tosh was Tupac before Tupac. The man had a guitar in the shape of a machine gun on stage. Like, he was not playing any games or whatever whatsoever. And there's an iconic interview saying basically, you're not giving me my due diligence as a musician because I won't sing "Baby, I effing love you" songs all day. And
Right.
yeah, you know what I mean. Saying,
Right. He's up there saying, "I don't want justice. I want equal rights."
correct.
And yeah, absolutely.
But I can go
I would definitely say
on rant.
Peter Tosh was definitely a bit more hardcore than Bob Marley in a lot of different ways.
Bob is more digestible to the public because he's short and light skinned and fair, which is Tosh 6'4", dark and imposing to people, which is beautiful in our culture but ugly to the Western world. So
Right.
I get it.
And saying a lot more specifics. I mean,
Absolutely.
him coming out with legalized marijuana.
Right.
I mean, I'm not talking about legalized. I'm talking about the one with the, what is it, Addie Bush Doctor.
You know, Mystic Man, yeah. Oh, you know the music,
Yeah.
okay. All right. I'm impressed.
I mean, I'm guilty of. My dad is definitely a white guy, but that loved reggae music, and he started his career as a drummer, and he loved to play. I mean, he could hold it down as
Well,
a
the one
reggae
drop
drummer.
in
Most drummers don't know how to play
right, the one drop in the
reggae
steppers.
drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like completely opposite from the Western world of drums. Like
Does that have
people
any
almost think
correlation? Is your name Kaya by
what's that?
coincidence? Is your name Kaya by coincidence?
No, it's not by
All right,
coincidence.
cool. I should have took the context clue off top. That's my fault. You should. I didn't want to assume, but like, all right, cool. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he definitely.
I would
But
say
then
this.
that goes back to kind of like what you're saying. I mean, so you have a love of the authenticity that reggae brings forward, and no matter what your skin, if you're an authentic person, I think you feel that, and that
Absolutely.
resonates with you. But then what ends up happening is, I would never say to somebody that just because, and I don't think you would say this either, that just because your skin is white, like, my dad is passed now, but I'm sure you would actually love him if you had met him, right? But so you would ever say to him, you shouldn't be playing reggae. But that comes with that, there's a cultural appropriation that when you see at these higher levels, people getting these gigs that um, maybe should be given to, like you said, the people that actually that is their culture. And that's a very difficult thing to do then, because it's like,
Right.
how do you sort through that? How
This
do you
isn't
go,
about
okay,
this isn't about really white or black. It just happens that all the people who are doing this are white. I will say this and expound on that. If it weren't for white people, reggae music would be dead. Black people in America do not support reggae music whatsoever. All my crowds, when I go out, I can say are predominantly white. And I'm very thankful for my white fans. I would not have a career if it weren't for my white fans in North America and Europe and everywhere else, and even in the Caribbean. Black people do not support reggae music the way they should. So this is not me being divisive and throwing people by the wayside. I'm throwing my own people to the wayside because we've not done right by ourselves. Therefore, that made the music vulnerable enough to be taken and watered down and stripped away. We didn't take care of what we cultivated ourselves. We are responsible. We dove off in the dance hall, dove off in the hip hop, and we did the secular thing the same way, and now they're taking our sacred music and doing the same thing that was done to it on the other side. So we're responsible.
Wow.
That don't make it less right, but we are responsible. If you leave, think about these bands here, right? If you leave a genre after Bob died, the early reggae that was at its peak in the mid '80s, then dancehall and hip hop started coming really into the forefront. When that happened, like roots reggae kind of died. We left the genre of music alone for like 15, 20 years. These people saw an easy Grammy and started labeling the music reggae. Now you got people, you know how many times I played a show and someone said, "Do you know any Sublime? You know any Slightly Stupid?" And I'm like, why? I'm not, like, that's not reggae. You guys don't understand. But it bridges the gap for a lot of people into roots because that's what they've been introduced as first. But again, these people trying to steal an easy Grammy. Your music was fine the way it was. If you have a bigger following than me, obviously the music is better. Just don't call it what it is, for what I call it, because this is my music, and you're making my life and my road harder because you're the misnomer that you're giving your music.
Yeah.
Is
And
that
I
okay?
think overall what you're talking about is a wider, I mean, there's a lot of different oppressive factors at work here. I mean, you could make that argument as well between, real rock and roll, what I consider actual rock and roll, and what happened when pop and disco came in.
Right,
I mean, it's the commercialization of it. It's the, hey, we're going to have, 10 songwriters in Nashville write everything
right,
for fucking everybody that gets a Grammy.
right.
Um, and I think that if we could see the music business, I read an article one time, and I don't have, the bibliography right now to cite it, but it was talking about how the music business would be a lot more, here's this word again, like egalitarian, and more provide better opportunities for the people, for the actual talent, and not for the people with the connections, if they went a little bit more like the way the movie industry has moved, right? Nobody goes out to see a big film hardly anymore,
Correct.
right? I mean, there's a lot of factors to that, like COVID and the, theaters and stuff, but I'm talking about long before that, we started seeing Netflix
Netflix,
and,
Hulu, and
these
stuff.
people paying for really good actors, really good, storylines that were not the main, Warner Brothers, not the big companies anymore.
Right.
And I think that's what, unfortunately, stuff like Spotify, like, who's going to pay for your music if
It's
I can just get everybody else's for free?
Spotify is such slavery, man, to where like you're paying me less than a penny per stream, but they're also in cahoots with the music industry, and they're going off your metrics on that app alone.
Right.
But I'm dominating. I'm dominating on Amazon. I'm dominating on iTunes, and all my focus goes to the streaming platforms that actually pay me for my royalties for my downloads. They still don't pay anywhere close to what it's worth, but they pay much more than what Spotify pays. So I don't put any money into social media. I pride myself on being very much organic with my followers. I've got about 4,000 likes on my Facebook page. I've shaken every one of those hands. I've earned every bit of them. I could go there and pay for 10,000, not non-generic likes, but what is that going to profit me? I don't see where that's turned
It's
over.
not.
You're right. I don't see where that's turned over.
But that is the game.
That's the
People
game.
do like to see that.
I
They
don't play
like to
it.
see when they book you, oh, you've only got, 1,000 followers or four,
Right.
whatever it is. Um, but so I guess getting back to the original question, so for you, it's not about the fame. What is it about? What is your career goal
It's
then?
been
Just to
about
make change, just to bring authenticity?
really just keeping the roots alive, man. Someone has to do it, man. Otherwise, we'll lose our genre of music. We'll lose the root of the music I grew up loving, and what's really set my spirit and my foundation. I feel that music, and I love that music in that sense, to where just the frequency of the music I can feel, and it permeates through my soul. Really, and I hate to sound mystic about it, but that's really what it is. I love this music, and someone's got to preserve it. But also, for me to preserve the music, I've got to be on a platform big enough to sustain myself and those around me for us to do it at a certain quality to keep it alive. So the music
Right.
cannot be better unless we're getting on certain stages and playing certain things. And again, I was kicking pretty hard right before COVID, and COVID coupled with the rise of how the new age of this music is going, it kind of hit as a double-edged sword, and they kind of saw their opportunity to say, okay, hey, these independent guys who are lower national headliners that are not signed to any label, who are doing it completely independently and are still doing the hustle game and playing and jumping on stages, and I'm still playing those bigger shows as well. I've played everywhere from a coffee shop to opening for a Grammy winner. So like, I played, I played in front of thousands of people. I've hit 14,000 people just for me, no opener, at National Gallery of Art in
Are you
D.C. So it's like,
are you are you committed to having a to doing this completely independently? Like you're not going to have
um,
a and I'm not saying whether you should or not. I mean, I do have my own opinion about it, but like you don't have somebody like a booking agent or a manager or a producer. Like you guys are going to keep it roots.
I've had my manager in house. Everyone I've had has been in house. I currently don't have that anymore. I manage myself. I book myself. There are certain places and regions and venues you have to go through a booking agent, but I have good relationships with those people I have to go through. But there's also a bigger measure of gatekeepers I don't really fool with whatsoever. And they definitely keep bands in and out and they decide who makes it and who doesn't. What I want to do with this really again is to it's just make this big enough to be sustainable. And again, it's sustainable now. It's big enough to be comfortably sustainable to where we're not playing the hustle game like everyone else is. Um,
Yeah.
that
Right. You don't have to beg for a spot at the table. You
right,
don't have to deal with those gatekeepers. It's like they're like, "Hey, yeah, you're welcome," instead of like, "Oh, let's have farm fresh eggs on the
correct.
side."
And the crazy part is, I was asked, "Well, you sound like you have an attitude." Well, here you go. You asked the wrong one because I'm gonna tell the truth. I absolutely have an attitude because this is well, and I was told, well, you were never guaranteed that your name would be on the marquee. Well, why did you not? Why would you not put my name on the marquee? And I hate to be so petty
Yeah.
about this, but it's a lack of common courtesy. I went years taking so much abuse in this business. Like now, people look at me crazy because I mandate they spell my name correctly on flyers and marquees and stuff. Have the nerve to get mad. My name is phonetically spelled just the way it sounds. No silent letters, no extra letters, no nothing. And if you didn't know, all you had to do was ask.
Yeah, again, that's just bad. But I mean, and I've had people do that to me too. I mean, I have an
Common
uncommon
respect,
name as well.
common
So it's
respect,
like,
right?
yeah, they could just do the research. I've had people do that to me in an email or in a Facebook message where it says in
You
the
can
email
right,
or
you
on
can
the
see
top
where
of
it's coming
it.
from, right? Like, dude,
Just
right.
look up at the title and just, yeah.
The thing is,
But
though,
that's a whole nother talk. I'd love to have you. I'm running a little short on time now, but so I have a very nice setup with. I mean, you saw me bring in the lights over when I was talking to Jesse and stuff, and like the nice camera. I'd love to sometime plan a band special where I come and like record you guys during like a practice and get some of the actual music. Um, I want to hear you play, and I'd love to be a part of that and get some recordings for you guys. I'm sure you guys have a YouTube channel, right?
mhm,
And you
absolutely,
put stuff on there. Yeah. So I think it'd be cool to do something like that
I'm down for it.
if you're down. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, but what do you have coming up here that I can promo for you real quick?
I have for the first time, honestly, in 10 years, I have a residency, and I've always been vehemently against those things. But it is a slower season for us, and I was offered an opportunity to play a room I've played before. It's the old Prime Time in Fairfax, Honor Brewing Kitchen. I play there every Saturday in the month of March. We'll kick up in April a little bit, and our touring schedule will be up. I don't even know. It's mostly booked. We're going on another national run in late May, and we'll hit all our different regions. Just check us out on Bands in Town or the Facebook page. I'm so absent minded. I don't know what's what from week to week, but we're it's up there and we'll be there. I promise. So
Okay. Well, I've certainly enjoyed this conversation. I'm glad I got to have you on here for a little bit. Hopefully the baby's in the background. I got to go soothe the babes is basically what needs to happen. Anybody who doesn't have kids and listens to it, I guess they can just deal with it because
right,
they don't know.
for sure,
People who have kids know.
right. Well, I appreciate it. Seriously, one of the better interviews I've had in a long time. I appreciate you so much for your time and efforts, and
Yeah,
I will talk to you soon.
absolutely. Yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right.
Take it easy.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.